Son of a glitch.
Sonic Colors. Easily one of the best 3D Sonic games of all time, and probably one of the most polished too. But there's one thing we know about Sonic games: there's always a glitch around somewhere. And so let's kick things off from the beginning and head to Tropical Resort. This first glitch involves using the laser wisp to clear this ramp without interacting with it, and thus reach the 2D section ahead in an unintended way. Double jump onto the ramp at a slight angle, and just before you land on it, activate the laser wisp by pressing either the Z button on a GameCube controller or by shaking the Wii remote. You'll now be able to aim the laser over the ramp, and next you want to aim the beam over to the left and then release the controls. Once you shoot forwards, you'll go through a wall, and then you need to immediately boost in the air and aim to land on this section of the stage. By using laser in this way, Sonic skips an activation trigger from a 3D running section to a 2D platforming section. This now means Sonic has 3D movement in all directions in an area that's only designed for 2D left and right movement. There's just one main problem with this. All 2D sections in the game are programmed to be visually 3-dimensional, but gameplay is limited to an almost rail-like boundary. Basically, even though this looks solid, Sonic can only run on a very thin solid section of it. Trying to land on platforms that look solid often results in Sonic falling through it and losing a life. Luckily, Sonic's homing attack can be used on enemies and springs to land on solid ground and avoid dropping through the floor. With this basic concept in mind, we can move around these sections of the stage in ways not intended. If you're having trouble skipping the ramp using the laser wisp, there's an easier way that requires jumping at the right side of the ramp. There's an invisible wall that would usually stop you, but you're able to jump over the ramp completely if you jump from the correct distance and to the right. After this, you can boost around the 2D trigger and end up on the other side in 3D. You can use these balloons on the other side to slow Sonic down and gain some control. Once again, you have to move carefully to avoid falling through the ground, but as long as you stand on the parts of the ground that Sonic would be able to in 2D, you'll be okay. Skipping the 3D in 2D triggers and vice versa is a common theme of the glitches in Sonic Colors, and most of these glitches are made possible by wisps. Grab a laser wisp and head to this rail section in Tropical Resort Act 1. What we need to do is time a jump so that Sonic goes through the final rainbow ring where the rails meet. As Sonic goes through the ring, tap jump and then activate laser. The animation that Sonic performs when going through rainbow rings allows him to jump and then use wisps on rails, something you're not supposed to be able to do. You're now able to aim the laser upwards by holding down on the control stick and then release it. This will skip a 3D trigger, and now the game thinks Sonic is still in a 2D section, so we end up with this wonky camera. Once you go through the huge loop and arrive in the next section, the game still thinks we're in 2D, and so Sonic's movement is limited to just forwards and backwards. This becomes pretty special when you try to homing attack some balloons and Sonic just spins in place and then falls. The glitch carries on right until the end of the stage, and because of this we can do something pretty cool, but it requires some very difficult setup. In Act 1, grab a laser wisp and then head for this spring that only appears once you go back around this loop. This spring puts Sonic in 3D movement before putting him back in 2D. However, once you bounce off the spring, jump and hold upright on the control stick and Sonic will maintain 3D movement. You then need to stay in 3D by stomping and jumping in and around this 2D platform. If you even slightly run on it, Sonic will be put back in 2D movement. This is very difficult to do, but if you can get far enough along, you'll need to finally double jump and then boost to land on the middle rail. Like before, you'll have skipped a 2D in 3D trigger, but this time you'll have the laser wisp. Plus, Sonic will only have 2D movement, which is required for the next glitch. When Sonic is in 3D movement, laser can only be aimed left or right, and we need it to be aimed up or down, so 2D movement is necessary. Now head for the end of the act, and when you go through the rainbow rings, activate laser, which will be slightly delayed, but then it'll work. Hold down on the control stick to aim upwards and then release. Boost as soon as you can, and you may now recognize this area as the beginning of Act 2. Every act in each different world of the game exists in one giant level, separated by very tall, sometimes invisible walls. All we did was use laser to get over the wall separating Acts 1 and 2. You're not able to get very far, unfortunately, as when you reach an act in this way, the usual assets like enemies or springs aren't loaded, and this stops you from making any progress. Speaking of Act 2, after the looping section, you can once again can use laser to have 3D movement in a 2D section. When you reach this drop, jump, activate laser, and then simply aim forwards. Now boost and you'll skip the trigger, maintaining 3D movement. The cool thing about this glitch is whenever you hit a checkpoint, you'll still have the 3D and 2D glitch if you lose a life while trying it out, so you don't have to get it once again. So now you can experiment and do cool things like this. Nice! In Act 5, you can pull off a really simple out-of-bounds glitch. Use laser to reach the goal ring, but as you emerge from the laser tunnel, quickly boost and then stomp and you'll end up on the other side of this block wall and in the final section of Act 3. Yet again, nothing is loaded here, but it's possible to make it to where the goal ring in Act 3 would be using jumps and boosting. Once you land here, both sides are blocked by invisible walls, so the only way to get out is to restart the act. Moving on to Sweep Mountain now, and a pretty fun glitch that can occur in Act 6. On the grind rail before the end of the act, if you jump here, then stomp and boost while holding down left on the control stick, the game will try to pull Sonic between two varying 2D paths, one in the foreground and one in the background. The result is a massive amount of speed that sends Sonic flying upwards in the opposite direction that you hold the control stick. So down right sends Sonic to the left, and down left sends Sonic flying up to the right. You'll now fall quite a way through the air until you hit the kill plane below the stage. Another outcome is that it's possible to land on an invisible platform behind the goal ring, and below this is an empty area of the stage that you'll be stuck in should you venture down here. This is a pretty fun glitch that ultimately serves no purpose other than seeing how far you can get sent flying. Next, we're off to one of my favorite stages in the game, Starlight Carnival, and this next glitch is pretty cool and useful. At the beginning of the stage is a section where you have to use the homing attack to reach the other side, where some orange rings will place you on an automated holographic path where you have no control. However, when you destroy the first block, hold directly up on the control stick and then boost for a short period of time, and you can land on the path without going through the orange rings. This now gives you control over Sonic, which is not intended, and opens up the ability to jump on this path, which we can use to our advantage to skip an entire 2D section of the stage. Destroy the first block, boost, and then hopefully land on the other side. Now speed through the rest of this section without holding any direction on the control stick until you're about here, where you need to time a jump so you avoid being sent up into the starship. You need to press and hold jump while holding up and to the right on the control stick. When you reach the full height of the jump, boost and hopefully you can reach the holographic pathway that you're supposed to land on once you leave the 2D section. And sometimes in doing this, the game won't have enough time to load the path correctly and it'll be invisible. This skip does take practice to get a feel for it, but it's optimal in a speedrun as it saves around 30 seconds. For this next glitch, you'll need to grab the cube Wisp and then go through the act as normal until you reach the long quick-stepping section with the motobugs. Now, you're not supposed to be able to use the Wisps in this section, but if you jump, stomp, and then immediately activate cube, the game will let you use cube normally. This can then be used to mess with the scripted event where the starship teleports into view. To do this, simply keep using cube. Sonic will then start running in the opposite direction, which is not supposed to happen at all. You're now treated to an amazing view of space as Sonic runs back the entire way from where he came. Ultimately though, when you reach the end, Sonic runs off the edge and falls into nothingness. Onto Planet Wisp now, and a Rocket Wisp Oversight that can lead to some pretty glitchy results. When you activate Rocket on the underside edges of a platform, the Wisp will leave Sonic and continue to float in the air for about 12 seconds, enabling you to grab it once again. Knowing this, we can get Rocket to leave Sonic and float around in high places, and then grab that same Rocket whilst already in another Rocket form. Usually, Rocket's power meter drains very quickly, so you're unable to go any higher than the game allows you to. But when you collect that floating Rocket Wisp while already in Rocket form, the power meter is refilled, meaning Rocket will take you far higher than intended. When Sonic begins falling back towards the ground, you can now hold the control stick left or right to get Sonic to fall out of bounds. You'll now be able to see just how much of the background actually exists and what the developers never thought you'd see. None of the background stuff is solid, and eventually you'll lose a life from falling under the stage. This Rocket Wisp Oversight can also be performed in Act 1 once you reach the 2D section. Use the Spikes Wisp to go up the walls, grabbing the Rocket Wisp on the way, then activate Rocket at the underside edge of this platform platform. Drop back down and grab another rocket wisp, which you then activate, and on the way up into the air, you should grab the rocket wisp that's floating around. The power meter will fill up once again and you'll be taken much higher into the air. Once Rocket is over, Sonic will begin falling and you'll be able to head back towards the beginning of Planet Wisp Act 1, but you'll only have forward and backwards movement, as the game still thinks you're in 2D. This is a really fun oversight with the rocket wisps that was clearly known by the developers but requires a lot of setup that you'd never really encounter it during regular gameplay. In other stages, being able to grab another rocket wisp while already in rocket form is a feature of the stage, like in Aquarium Park. But it's high enough to accommodate this, and they also put in ceilings to stop you breaching the playable area. However, Planet Wisp has no such thing, and so Sonic can go above and beyond any invisible walls that might be in place, so have fun exploring out of bounds and enjoy the glitchy view. Another amusing glitch can be performed in Act 3, where you start out being attacked by these Aero-Chasers. Make sure you don't destroy any of the three by having them slam into a wall, and keep going until you're about to leave this quick-stepping section. Be sure not to destroy this robot before you head up the final ramp. Quick step left and then immediately hold down on the control stick and then boost. When you land on the ground, jump and then homing attack the robot to stop Sonic from running completely. The Aero-Chasers will now reappear despite having slammed into a wall seconds earlier, and then they'll stay a set distance away from Sonic if you move forwards or backwards. You can also have them hit the wall again. In fact, if you stand the correct distance away from the wall, they will infinitely respawn and hit the wall over and over again. You'll even get points each time this happens. The game still thinks you're playing this quick-stepping section normally because you haven't left the area yet, and so these guys will stick around until you leave. If you attempt this glitch and don't homing attack the robot, Sonic will begin running towards the screen until you inevitably fall into the water and die. Ah, the fun we have. The next set of glitches all occur in Aquarium Park, and of course all involve the use of wisps. Sonic is able to run on water while boosting, and if you use laser and aim it downwards, something strange will happen. When Sonic hits the breakable blocks underwater with laser, the game assumes he's still out of the water. This now means Sonic has regular physics whilst underwater. You can try to grab air bubbles, but nothing happens. Not that you need them, as Sonic won't drown when he's in this state. You won't be able to use any of the drill wisps that you can find down here either. Also disabled is the ability to continuously jump towards the surface, so if you venture to the bottom of the stage, you'll be stuck here and you'll have to restart the act, thus ending the glitch. In Aquarium Park Act 2, clever use of the cube wisp can help you explore behind the act. Skip the checkpoint of this stage by jumping over it, and then grab a cube wisp and make your way to another by going through some rainbow rings. Let the initial cube run out and then grab the other one. Now get the rotating platform up to its highest point and then boost jump to the left of the screen. Jump in the air and then boost once more, and as soon as the camera transitions, activate Q. You'll then be standing on an invisible barrier, and now you need to jump around a 2D trigger to land on the platform with the checkpoint. Now you'll have 3D movement, and going through the checkpoint will keep the glitch if you lose a life. Now make your way to the goal ring and then head towards the background and jump down to where the stage began. The falling platforms at the beginning of the act will be gone, but you can boost and jump your way over to this area here. Now you'll essentially be in Act 1, but yet again there's nothing loaded, and you'll only be able to go so far to explore. There's a huge invisible wall that blocks off the rest of the stage, preventing you from further exploration. In Act 6, you'll eventually reach a hover wisp, which you'll need to use to reach an alternate area of the stage where you can find one of the many red rings. Once you get to this section, grab another hover wisp and now make your way across all the platforms, making sure not to use the hover wisp. When you reach the red ring, use the springs to enter a free fall, and here we need to land on the higher floor. Now boost, jump, and then activate hover. Press and hold the A button to ascend higher whilst also mashing the B button. It turns out mashing B prolongs the amount of time you stay in hover form for as much as 10 seconds longer, and this will enable you to clear an invisible wall and make it to a pool of water on the other side. You need to aim Sonic to land in this section of water, and once you hit the water, hold right on the control stick and then start repeatedly tapping jump. Sonic will now be jumping as if he's in the water when he clearly isn't. This now gives you the ability to explore the stage free of any real constraint, bar a few invisible walls and the fact that even though you're out of the water, there's a very real risk of drowning. This can be remedied by entering water and then quickly jumping out of it, and it's possible to do this in a way that maintains the glitch. You can venture pretty far out of bounds and explore Aquarium Park using this pretty incredible glitch. This glitch happens because Sonic enters a 2D water section but then leaves it with 3D movement from the sides instead of emerging directly upwards. Aquarium Park doesn't feature any 3D water sections, and so the game is unsure if you've actually left the water at all, and doesn't bother to check if you're even above the surface. It's assumed you must be still underwater where those physics are applied. One of the most interesting glitches in Aquarium Park is the ability to venture far beyond the goal ring in Act 3. To do this, you'll need to pull off a fairly tricky maneuver using a rocket wisp. Firstly, grab a rocket wisp and make your way to this section where a giant platform descends towards the bottom of the stage. We need to wait until it's almost at the bottom, and from as high a spot as possible, jump and boost to the right and immediately stomp and use rocket. If done correctly, you'll use rocket in this automated section and you'll have control of Sonic once it ends. You have to advance forward, being careful not to go too far and then go around an invisible wall that would load behind you, so now you can move in 3D. Now go back to the huge platform and then stand as close to the edge of the platform as possible. Jump in the water briefly and then repeatedly tap jump to get the underwater physics above the surface. You can now carry this around beyond the goal ring and then get inside the quick-step tunnel behind it. Because the game thinks you're underwater, the countdown will begin, so you have to get to another section of water a bit further up. And this will now make it possible to explore the stage behind the goal ring. What's weird is that enemies still spawn behind the goal ring along with other assets that wouldn't be loaded usually in an unused part of the stage. There's even another goal ring that you can get to which is active. If you want to take this even further, you can use Frenzy to get you to the other section of water faster to get some air, which allows you to remain in 3D. Going in the tunnel kinda locks you into the stage again, and eventually you'll end up in 2D and the glitch is essentially lost. But with this method you avoid the tunnel completely. As long as you can make it to this water here, you can jump in the 2D section of the water and emerge in 3D with water physics. This will now allow you to explore even further into Act 4. You can regain regular physics by jumping in a 2D section of water and then jumping back out. From this part here, you can jump through everything and then double jump to readjust and land on this platform before the loop. Jump at the path like this and then you'll begin falling downwards. As you fall, follow the path down and eventually you'll see a bright light at the end of the tunnel, so now have Sonic facing away from the platform. When you pass through the bright light, boost and you'll land at the end of Act 4, only there won't be any wisps to rescue. This is one of my favorite glitches in the game. It's a really fascinating glitch to mess around with given how much you can explore. Just be careful not to drown, especially not in the air, which looks crazy. The final stages of the game take place in Asteroid Coaster. At the end of Act 1, you can reach the beginning of Act 2, which you can see in the background. Simply take a run up, boost, double jump and boost again, aiming for the starting point of Act 2, and there are some invisible walls that should stop you from overshooting. As always, nothing is loaded here and the camera stays fixed behind Sonic, but it's interesting that you can reach Act 2 so easily. Act 2 has some very unique skips, one midway through that's very hard to pull off but very cool to see. The first skip involves using Frenzy at the beginning and taking it back down the ramp and then speeding up it, finishing with a jump near the top. If you can get enough height, you can lock onto the highest springs once Frenzy runs out, which is a sweet trick and saves some time. The second skip is the most broken of the game. At the end of the asteroids section, Sonic bounces upwards from a spring, and here we can line Sonic up and boost to land inside a fence, just slightly out of bounds. If you now carefully run along the edge of the platform like this, you're able to jump through the green goop and then quickly jump again to turn and boost towards the ending parts of the stage. From here, gravity is all kinds of messed up now, and controlling Sonic can be tough. But it's possible to boost around the foreground and have gravity launch Sonic upwards. You'll see the goal ring briefly, and now you need to time a boost well to get to it and end the stage. A very cool speedrun strat indeed. This last glitch in Asteroid Coaster takes place in Act 5 right at the beginning, which is going to let us get behind the stage. To pull this off successfully, you need to lure these two robots towards Sonic and then use the pulley when the first robot gets about here. You need to land in between the two robots without going too far to the right, as if you do, an invisible wall will prevent you from going left. If you take damage, that works too, but you need to jump off the first robot holding left on the control stick and then press B to dash over to the wall. Remain holding left on the control stick and then keep wall jumping upwards. You'll now be in an area of the second act minus the assets, like a spring that would be placed here. Something strange happens if you crouch and then hold right on the control stick and then hold right once again when Sonic stops sliding. Sonic will gain a huge amount of speed and be catapulted upwards. If you do this and then turn, let go of the control stick once you launch and you can actually reach other parts of the stage, like this loop that's directly above or another section entirely that, you guessed it, is completely empty. It's not certain why this glitch works, but it could be something similar to the glitch in Sweet Mountain. Whatever it is, it's a pretty interesting glitch. And finally, an amusing glitch that makes the Asteroid Coaster boss basically kill itself. To do this, you need to attack any part of the boss 6 times, except for the spotlights, which only take 4 hits. The boss will then drop a rocket wisp, so grab that and then attack the boss one more time so that it warps away and the screen goes into a 2D position. Now avoid the falling rocks and then get to the far right side of the screen, and when the boss reappears, use rocket. Once rocket ends, use Sonic Stomp and this will put the boss in a glitchy state. Now simply stay away from the boss and the spike balls that it drops will actually cause damage and finish it off. If that's not the most ridiculous thing ever, I just don't know what is. And that about wraps this up. Some strange and wonderful glitches in Sonic Colors you guys can try out. If you like Sonic glitches, check out some of the other episodes like Sonic Generations or Sonic Lost World. A huge thanks to Darkspine Sonic, Paraxade, Supersonic 917, and the Cryptic Jackknife. You should go check them all out right now. And if you like this episode, hit that like button, share it with everyone you know and love, but most importantly, please subscribe if you want to see more from the series. Head over to the Facebook page for the show. I post updates and sneak peeks to upcoming episodes and keep you guys in the know about all things Son of a Glitch. Or you can follow me on Twitter and keep updated that way. Go on, try it, you might like it.